Hi,
How are you?
I'm doing fine. How about you?
I'm good. I'm good. How's the day going?
It's going all right. Yeah. And how about you? How's your day going?
Oh, it's been a busy day. I have interviews, scheduled from morning till evening. If
Hmm.
you're comfortable, we had an introductory session in which I briefed you about the interview. So, if you're
Hmm.
comfortable, we can start.
Yeah, I'm very much comfortable. So, my name is Deepak. I have a visual disability. I'm based in Delhi. I'm currently pursuing Javed Abidi Fellowship with NCPDP India. Besides this, I also make films for a living. And my theme of research is social and economic inclusion for women, queer, and transgender people with disabilities. So, this is a brief introduction about myself uh, and how I came to this fellowship and why I chose this specific topic. That is something happened 1.5 years ago when I started making a film about a person who identifies as queer trans and is neurodivergent.
Okay.
And when I started making this film, I got introduced to this community of people with disabilities who also are have different sexual orientation or gender identity.
Yeah.
And previously to that, since I studied in an academic institution, there also I came across queer and transgender people, but mostly they were able-bodied, right?
Okay.
So I always knew that disabled community is also not monolith. It is as diverse as other communities are, and there are people from different identities that are there. But I wasn't very well aware of the issues and the challenges that they face, right?
Yeah.
So as I started making this film and got introduced to the person and virtually spending my day to day with them while recording their life, I got to know the kind of issues that a person faces when you are living on this intersectionality of gender and disability,
Yeah.
right? Then I went further and I did some academic research of my own. I went up, I read up articles, I read up things, and then I got introduced to other people in the community who are basically activists who are doing work within the field of the intersection of gender and disability, and that's how I got this motivation to contribute some sort of a research, some sort of a contribution in the research in the field of research through this fellowship. Because I remember at that time I was looking for opportunities, perhaps where I can pursue a research like this and make a contribution. So NCPDP was um, asking for applications for doing research in the field of disability. So that's how I applied there, writing my statement of intent that I want to do a research on this. I am fortunate that I got a chance to do this. And it's been 1.5 years now, and it's been a journey that is filled with both up and down and all sorts of things. But
Okay. That's quite a long journey that you have told me. So, you worked on intersectionality between gender and disability, including women, transgender, and queer. This is a new topic, a very novel topic, as I must say. So, how was the reaction from NCPDP people?
I would say this is, I would not say this is a very new topic. It has always existed within the academic circles. The thing is that there are very few people who are trying to work on this aspect of when they are trying to work on disability issues, they are also looking at intersectionality through the lens of intersectionality. I would say the NCPDP director who did my interview, Mr. Rahman Ali, when I spoke to him, he was very receptive of the fact, and he has been someone who has been championing the disability cause for such a long time,
Yeah.
and he himself been very actively engaged in all sorts of disability related issues. So he was very receptive to the fact when I spoke to him and I told him that I want to do this research. And I remember his first question to me was, in which state you would like to work and the kind of work that you want to do. So that liberty of allowing me and accepting me the way I wanted to do the research and giving me that space to conduct a research. Because, as I said, this journey has not been easy. It has been filled with ups and downs. You know, when you go into the field and you start talking to the people from the queer and transgender community, most of them, since there is a lot of stigma attached,
Yes.
so they are not very comfortable in talking to you, right? So
Yeah.
there are challenges when you collect data. There are challenges when you are preparing case studies because people don't want to reveal their names. People don't want to reveal things. They can tell you things off record, but they will say, please don't put it on record. So I
Yeah.
think in that regard, the help that I got from NCPDP in one sense, because they never forced me to record a video of someone or take a photo or anything, because this was a mutual understanding between us, that when I'm going to do this research, most of the time people will not like to talk to me, or even if they are ready to talk to me, they will not talk on record, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So, so I think that space that I got to do this research, and that's why I've been able to carry out my research smoothly, because there's an organization which is caring so much about you, because it is not forcing you to do things. And I know for a fact that this is a evidence-based research that you need to follow, and still allowing me that space, because they also understand the nature of this,
Yeah.
the kind of topic that I was dealing with. So I would say they were very recipient to the things that I wanted to do, and in fact, they have been very supportive in also time and again when I have asked for help. My most of the dealings of that I do is with Sumit, who is our program officer. And when I talk to him about any difficulties, so he comes up with solutions and tells me that perhaps you do this or that. For example, there was time back when I was not able to collect data very smoothly, because there were difficulties, as I said. And
Yeah.
I told him that I'm not able to do so. So what he suggested me was, please go into the transgender shelters home, and try to reach out to them, and perhaps through that you will be able to interview more people, and you have to go on street and do this. So I mean, so giving me these crucial advices at crucial juncture of my research has also helped me in some ways. So I think I would say NCPDP has been a great source of support in doing this, and they have provided all resources and assistance that I could have asked for. So yeah.
So you spoke that you went to collect case studies regarding the difficulties that they face. Can you share some of the cases that you encountered that moved you?
So this was 6 months back. I went into, and this is, mind you, a very premier institute that teaches a course on fashion and technology and all these things.
Yes.
So I met this person, and obviously it was through extended contact that I had. And they said that you need to speak to them because they have something very important to share.
Okay.
I said, okay. So I started meeting them, and they were initially very hesitant to talk. As they opened up after 3-4 meetings, and they started to speak, then it showed me that how within academic institutions
Yes.
this whole idea of homophobia, transphobia, and this ableism
Yes.
thrives. Okay.
Okay.
So what they told me was, they identified as trans. Okay.
Okay.
And they took admission in this institute and they were studying there. Obviously, they had some different appearance, the way they dressed and the way they conducted themselves within the institute. So what used to happen was the people around them were like mocking them most of the time, right? They only made one friend. However, till then, nobody knew of their identity,
Okay.
that what they identified as. So what happened was, I don't know this. They told me that once they were with their so-called friend, and they told. and he asked that why you dress up like this, or what's there and what. So trusting him, they told about their identity. They revealed about their identity to that person.
Okay.
And what they told me was that later it got circulated into a class WhatsApp group, and then it created that entire scene within the academic institute where everybody, even their teachers and everyone, started mocking them. And it came literally to a point where that person had to drop out and leave the institution. They
Hmm.
tried to seek help from everyone that they could. They tried to reach out the dean of the institute. They tried to reach out to other support system, but unfortunately, it did not. They could not get help that they needed, and then that left them in a very bad mental health
Yes.
space. This also brings me up to a point that when something like this happens, this is during my research that I found out that most of the time when such things happen, you don't have a sufficient health support system in
Yeah.
the country. And particularly if you are a gender marginalized person or a person with a disability or living in this intersectionality, you don't have enough spaces where
Yeah.
you can have seek the kind of assistance that you want to. So I mean that particular incident had a impact on my own understanding of things, because when you and this mind you, I'm talking about this a very premier institute. It's a very premier institute. It's not something a college in Uttar Pradesh or maybe in Madhya Pradesh or somewhere. It's right in the heart of Delhi.
Yeah.
So, uh, so this left me wondering about that how these academic institutions and these academic institutions function, on what axiom they function on, right?
Yeah.
And another thing that I want to say is this. I want to highlight as part of my research that when I was doing this research, I conducted this research where I had this specific question on knowing how many washrooms that we have within the academic institution that are specifically for transgender people. And uh, a significant 90% of the colleges or institute don't have it. And this
Okay.
includes Delhi University, JNU, Jamia, and all premier institutes that are there. So, I mean, we are talking about a situation which is quite, what you say, it's bleak in one sense,
That's true.
because uh, academic spaces is not only about going and studying and finding opportunities, it's also about other things as well,
Yeah.
right? Also finding space to express yourself, being part of that entire ecosystem, or that entire circle that you thrive on. You make friends, you make all sorts of things. And my research has showed that within academic institutions, there are not enough uh, grievance redressal cells for people with disability or people with queerness and disability. There are not enough, what you say, other sort of stuffs that a person needs for their support system. So, yeah,
So yeah, what you shared is actually quite distressing. That even the teachers, the dean, everybody went against him. Being a psychology student, I know how much mental support matters. And he had, I don't know how they identified as, but they had none, which is very distressing. Do you think this is because of lack of awareness? Because even in, if you're saying that it is in Delhi, Delhi is quite aware on these matters, but do you think this awareness that we have seen in past few times is more of jargons and social media craze? I mean, in reality, we don't empathize with them, or we don't understand them, or we don't have actual deep rooted awareness that everybody needs.
I think you need to look at it from a point of view that, see, the thing is, what I feel, and this is on a very personal level, that yes, lack of awareness, you can say it's there. And lack of awareness, I think, uh, more than that, there is dearth of understanding.
Yeah.
What happens is that when this judgment of entire 377 came, and people were rejoicing on street. Okay, finally, homosexuality has been decriminalized, and finally, the liberation of queer people is there, and people will be able to express themselves fully. I think in within that we forgot one thing, that stereotypes still exist. Okay,
Yes.
and stereotypes exist at various level. It starts from your as basic as from your own home. You know, when a child is born, and if he is a male or a female for that matter, and if they act against to their gender. I mean, you must have seen in families, if a boy cries, if a boy goes on to cry,
Yeah.
then they are labeled as soft or feminine, right? And
Yeah.
likewise for a woman, if they dress in a certain way, they will be categorized or stereotyped in a certain way, right?
Yeah.
So I think, see, what happens is judgments can only stop something. It acts in a realm of where could be decriminalized, or that something could be stopped. I think for a larger society to change, the it takes time, right? And that's why I say that I think it was a great moment, a watershed moment for us. But then what we have forgotten is that stereotypes still exist, and it exists in day to day life. And with respect to this intersection of gender and identities, disability, I think for the longest time it was not even a conversation within Indian academic circles also,
Yeah.
I think there are reasons for it, historical reasons for it, because uh, India never had any very sustained disability rights movement where other identities also coincided with it.
That's true.
I think United States and Europe had an advantage in the 1960s and 70s, because many of the movement that were happening, that were coincided with each other. The queer movement, the disability right movement, they were going hand in hand. The Black liberation movement,
Yes.
which never happened in India. So what happened because of that was our understanding of these critical issues within disability studies were absent until about early 2000s, when obviously things began to change, because you had globalization, you had all sorts of things, people were coming in, and exchange of ideas were coming in, and you started looking at things in a very different light. And obviously in the 2000s you also had a queer movement that was going on in India, where people were initially talking about, okay, we need to decriminalize 377, and as it went on, then disability also became a part of it. And but still I will say that disabled people disabled people with living with different gender identities or sexual orientation are still not part of that larger conversation within the queer community as well, but as well as within the disabled community.
Yes.
Because you need to understand that this stereotyping or this hatred persists cross the line, right?
That's true.
A queer person might be might be having some resentment against a person with disability. A disabled person, in in turn, might be having something against a person who identifies with a different gender than they are born to, or with a different sexual orientation.
That's true.
So that is the thing. And as I said, that stereotypes are there, and that exist within the system, and you need to face it day to day. And it becomes a much more what you say, a bigger issue when you have a disability, and that coincides with your sexual orientation or gender identity, because then you are dealing with two things. You are dealing with ableism, you are also dealing with homophobia, coephobia, or transphobia that is there. So yeah.
Yeah, as you said, then you're dealing with two marginalized identities. When I have, interviewed other fellows, I realized that at times disabled people also take time in opening up and, giving their case studies. This time where you are working, the person has has seen twofold discrimination, including ableism and including homophobia. So, what were the challenges that you faced while you were, working in the field and while you were collecting their case studies, talking to them? What were the challenges? I'm sure it must have been really difficult for them to open up to you. So I would like to know that in your own experience.
So there were many challenges. First is building a trust.
Yes.
How you gain a trust of someone, because other person, even in our normal conversations, we are hardly willing to share things with someone who is a stranger, whom
Yes.
you don't know, right? uh, what I was facing firstly was a trust issue is into convincing them that okay, whatever you are trying to say to me, I'll not uh, firstly, it's also about representation. I will not misrepresent you. Secondly, whatever you will say, it will stay between you and me. And even if I use it, I'll use it with anonymity, right? So to convince a person, you need to understand them first, where they are coming from.
Yes.
For example, I was dealing with someone who who identified as queer, and they were not yet out to their family, and they
Okay.
wanted to speak about the things that they are facing. So in that case, you need to be aware of the fact that you need to firstly make them understand that okay, whatever you are sharing will stay between you and me, because there is the entire dynamics of family is also involved,
Yes.
right? If somehow there this thing comes out and their family gets to know, then it will be a problem for them.
Yes.
Secondly, you need to also understand that where this person is coming from. They had a very conservative family. They came from a very conservative family, upper class Brahmin family, coming from Uttar Pradesh. Mostly peasants. Peasants in one sense, they own some land, but very radical in their views.
Okay.
Uh, so for this person who was living with cerebral palsy, they had to firstly, for them to find that separate space to talk to a person is difficult, because people with cerebral palsy is are dependent on caretakers or caregivers, and their disability was in a way where they required someone to be assisted all the time.
Yes.
So I think when we first interacted, and it was through a extended friend again who recommended me that should talk to them. So when we were first interacting, the biggest thing was to ensure the privacy of our conversation.
That's true.
uh, how to maintain that privacy and how to also build that trust. So I assured them that okay, we can do something in some ways. I told them, okay, physical meeting might not be possible. We can do this online, and how we can do this is perhaps uh, we can I can provide you certain sort of a support that I could do from my end, whatever support you need. And they were kind enough. They said, that is not a problem. I have a friend who will be willing to assist me during that time, and we can talk, because their speech was also a little slur in when they spoke. So you needed someone to sometimes
Yeah.
improve on what they are saying. So that's how firstly we started talking. I think it took me 10 days to firstly just sit with them and just listen to them over phone calls. And then building on that, we I moved on to convincing them that okay, this is done, and now we need to I need to have make a case study out of it. So you need to give me a formal interview. So the way you build that informal connection first
Yeah.
is a very crucial thing, that you make person comfortable. You tell them okay, that you can trust me. Everything that would be said by you will stay private to me, and then you build on that trust, and then you move forward, right? And you build and then you keep that trust also, because I think one thing I've been fortunate, and that is what I want to say, is that so far so many people have shared so many things with me, and all of them, they're still in touch with me. and I have not been. I am glad that I have been able to maintain their anonymity and respect the boundaries that is there,
That's
because you need to understand, as a researcher, there's always a power dynamic between
yeah.
you and the person who's your subject,
Yes.
right? Or for that matter, your person that you're trying to interview. So yeah.
Okay. So as you said that it is, very difficult to build the trust and you have to understand them. I've heard to understand the inclusion of LGBTQ, you developed a relationship with a transgender who was working on the street. How was that experience? This is very unconventional that you have tried. Not many people tried this or do this. So how was this experience trying the unconventional?
Oh, it was, I would say, very difficult in one sense, because, you know, you see these people, people who identify as transgender on street on a day-to-day basis, right?
Yes.
You encounter them because they are, unfortunately, our systems are not well equipped to provide them with equal opportunities,
Yes.
and that's why most of them, they resort to all kinds of stuff. They resort to sex work, they resort to begging, or they resort to other sort of ritualistic stuff that happens, right? You meet them on a day-to-day basis, uh, uh, but you ignore them because you don't want to acknowledge the fact that, okay, there is a significant number of population that is still fighting for their rights and trying to still ask for their inclusion within the society.
Yes.
When you go to them, they are filled with lot of anger also, and lot of resentment, which is rightfully so, against you, because you are coming from a background of privilege. You have a privilege, and I think it is very important for every individual to understand their privilege.
Yes.
And when you encounter someone who doesn't have that, so they have their anger and resentment against you, and you need to listen to them.
Yes.
And I think what I have been fortunate is that I had that patience to listen to a person when they wanted to speak,
Okay.
and when they wanted to speak about their problems. And there are various sorts of problems. It's not just only about fighting for their livelihood or fighting for finding a meaningful employment. It is as deep as police personals coming them and heckling them on streets, people spitting on them and talking all sorts of nonsense,
That's true.
right? And or maybe doing all kinds of different other what you say, bad stuff or wrong stuff with them, trying to lure them into something else that is much more darker. So they, when they live on streets, they face a lot of issues in terms of how they navigate their day-to-day challenges. And as I said, it's not only about livelihood; it's all sorts of things. So when you go with a privilege, because fortunately I have a privilege that I can live in a house, I can earn, I can work. Most of these people are not doing that. So
Yeah.
when you go to them, they have a lot of grievances to share with you. They have a lot of things to tell you of their own. So you need to be very patient while dealing with them. And you need to also tell them that, okay, what I'm trying to do is to do the research, collect the data, and perhaps it will lead to something in future, because you cannot do false promises to them also at the
Yeah.
same time. Because I realized this, you know, when I was doing interviews with other people also, not just the people from the transgender community, but women with disabilities. I remember I was from talking with someone who studied in Delhi University, and she had a visual impairment, and they were telling me that they were facing a lot of challenges within their academic institution, as they are not able to find accessible material or resources to do their study and everything. And they were very hopeful that I am doing their interview because it will lead to a change.
Okay.
Uh, then I explained them that this is just part of the research. What will happen later on is, perhaps I'll share this research with the policies maker, or maybe the people in power, and they will later on take this up and a change will happen. It will be a gradual process. But at that time, I realized that when you're talking to a person who's powerless, who has no power of their own, and they're dependent on someone, or they are trying to look up to someone who might be able to become their voice, because they are looking with certain sort of an expectation to you,
Right.
right? Then you need to also, then it is also very heartwarming, but it's also very frustrating for you, because you are just interviewing this person for the research, and you will not be able to make
Do
the
anything.
change yourself, right? You will not be able to do a change yourself. Perhaps you will take it to other people, and people in power will make that thing happen, right?
Yes.
And you know how the system functions. It takes time for things to change.
Yeah.
So that gives you very lot of frustration also in one sense. And coming back to this question of dealing with this person and talking to, as I said, just to listen to them. I started listening to them. And when they started trusting, they told more, and then that's how I was able to collect the data, and then I moved further. So it's that entire circle,
Yeah.
where you talk to people, you build trust, and you gain their trust. And as I said, that when people are looking up to you, that a change will happen. And when you are not in control of that, you know that you can just only collect their testimony, but you cannot just push for a change, because that will happen, but it will happen at certain point of time. That leaves you with a very different sort of a feeling, because sometimes also you feel very hollow in one sense, because when you're talking to them, sometimes you make promises, you tell them, okay, this and that, but then deep down inside that that is not under your control.
That's true.
So
So when you went to this transgender person, you talked to them and you developed a relationship with them. When you went to them, did you have any preconceived notions or inhibitions in your mind? Did those preconceived notions or inhibitions got ruled out? How was that experience? Please tell us in a brief.
see, this preconceived notions and all, I fortunately I never had that.
Okay.
And these are mostly based on the kind of depictions that you have of people within media, right?
Okay.
Or across cinema. I think most of our stereotypes are further amplified because of the popular media, the way it behaves with respect to people coming from gender marginalized or people with disabilities,
Yeah.
right? Since I have been frequently interacting with people, though little better privileged,
Yes.
but from the same community, so I never had that stereotype or inhibitions while talking to people, either on street or either on any level for that matter.
Okay.
I think one thing that I want to say, and this is something that it needs to be looked at, I think, and this is something that needs to be, I think, perhaps a deeper comment needs to be done by someone who has done a lot of research in this field, is that how this entire thing of popular media,
Hmm.
it's trying to in some ways, in many ways, through its depiction, is demeaning the life of transgender people in one sense.
That's true.
I still see films, they are either portraying them as what you say, in a very
Subhuman.
comedy comic roles, right?
Okay.
Something that can be mocked upon, or they are either just a way of comic relief, or they are putting them on a very high pedestal. I
Exactly.
think just recently there is a film that was made by someone. It came on Z5, I guess, and that was that had that transgender person had. It was showed that that transgender person had some Herculean power in them, right?
Oh.
And I think that transgender person role was played by Nawazuddin Siddiqui, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So yeah, so I think I think this needs to be looked at because it's not only a problem for this queer community, but it's also a problem for disabled people and or marginal, all kinds of marginalized people. The
Yeah,
kind
that's
of
true.
depiction that has been done on screen of individuals, because that leaves a very profound impact on a larger society. You just understand for a fact when you already have so much of stereotypes and so much of social stigma that is there, and when it further gets amplified
Yeah,
through cinema and media portrayal, because you say that cinema is the mirror of the society, right?
that's true.
So then that leaves lot of bad or negative impact on individuals. I think just very recently there's a judgment that has come from the Supreme Court where Supreme Court has gone on to talk about that there should be improvement of representation of people with disabilities on screen, which is a very welcome step. But
Yes.
again, as I said, we can celebrate this like what we did at the time of 377. But has will it change anything? For that, you need to, I think, perhaps make a change within the society, and that will only happen when you start teaching about disability and gender from the time when a child is entering into a school. Maybe after sixth or seventh standard, these things should be introduced
Sure. Yes.
at least for them to make them understand that okay, these are the things and you need to be sensitive enough going forward to at least have this discussion within the school system, because when a person comes to an academic institution, for example, if someone has not met a disabled people in their entire school life and they see suddenly one in their college, then there's a cultural shock,
Yeah,
you know.
totally.
So you need to change that, and that's why it is important that that's why I'm a supporter of the fact that more inclusion of students with disability should happen in mainstream schools, because what it does is when a person with disability, when a student with disability and non-disabled child is studying in the same school, so that gives the both of them more exposure,
Yeah,
right?
they both get comfortable with each other.
Yeah, with each other. And that's why it is also important that we start introducing these aspects of gender and all. We should have discussion. I think we should have discussion on we are having discussion on good touch and bad touch in schools. Why can't we have a discussion on gender and sexual orientation?
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
So
So, Deepak ji, when you took, took this step, when you tried the unconventional, when you went out of your comfort zone, it must have been really difficult. It is, quite challenging for the body and for the soul to get out of the comfort zone and try something new. So, can you tell me what does the body and soul go through when you explore yourself, when you try the unconventional, when you move out of your comfort zone? How it impacts your body and soul?
I think it impacts more on soul because body is what
Temporary.
you say. Yeah. So I mean, sometimes you feel very sorry to use that word shitty,
Okay.
because when, as I said, when you go with lot of expectation in one sense that you're trying to do something and perhaps it'll lead to a change, and
Yeah.
when it does not happen in that way, and you need to also understand that I also have my own disability to deal with, and other issues, health issues also that I have developed in last couple of years or so, and there are various other reasons to it. So when you are dealing with all kinds of these things, so it takes a toll
Yeah, that's true.
on your personal health and personal uh, uh, what you say, the way you want to do things. You are not sometimes not able to do so, and you feel extremely frustrated.
Yeah.
Sometimes you want to also, you feel low, you don't want to do work, and then you motivate yourself and you do something, but still there's constant feeling of not being able to do enough,
Yes.
leaves you with frustration, and then you need to seek that support system.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of toll in one sense, because I remember when I was dealing with this person that I told you about, who told me that how that entire scene played out within their academic institution when they came out with their identity and all. Because I have written this more in detail within my case study. Uh, so that left me with this feeling of hollowness for some time. And I was kept thinking about the person because it, you are trying to empathize,
Yeah,
right? Trying to put yourself within their shoes and understand that what they must have gone through because you cannot, and even then that is not enough because you're not able to understand when a person is mocked openly in the class WhatsApp group, when
yeah,
their own teacher turns against them and talk uh, what you say shit about them, or on their face they mock them. It's very hard, and the kind of mental toll that person might have gone through. So yeah, these things leave you little bit of scars, but then as I said, it's work, and I think this is something that someone told me very early when I was just getting into this research and everything. They told me that okay, you feel close with your person that you're interviewing, but at some time, but on some occasions, you need to find time for yourself
yeah, that's true.
and find that time to at least have some sort of a self reflection in some sense where you can just give yourself time because there are a lot of traumas that are there. Yeah? People are sharing all kinds of trauma that they have been through in their life, and
Yeah,
when you listen to them and then you say okay, there's so much of this. And also I think what happens is when you are repeatedly exposed to trauma, then you also become numb sometimes.
that's true. It takes a toll on
So
yourself.
after a point, you stop feeling anything.
Yes,
Also, that is a bad thing, and that's why I think it's also important to prioritize your own mental health and take those breaks and space where you just give yourself a time to do some sort of a self-reflection of where you are going with your research or where you are going with other sort of stuff that you're doing.
okay.
So yeah.
So you talked about support system, that how you, when you encounter all these things, you need a support system. I would like to ask, who was your support system when you did all these research and encountered all these traumatic experiences? What was your support system?
I think my support system has been very diverse. I've been fortunate to have a lot of great friends that I've made when I was studying in a media institute.
Okay.
I have a family that is there, of my brother and my father.
Okay.
I have support system within the NCPDP also because I know for a fact that if I am facing any sort of a problem at any point of time, I can ring up any one of them who's
That's true.
there and can talk to them. So the support system is quite diverse in that sense. And then since I do filmmaking for a living, and that is because research is just one part of my work that is there.
Yes.
I do filmmaking, so that is also another creative aspect. So currently, I'm involved in a project which is I'm doing so that takes away when you are under stress, you start doing a different sort of stuff. For some time, you don't do a work related to the fellowship, right? And I think I have that getaway, and I have a
Yes.
enough support system that is there for me. So yeah.
So you talked about how you have support in your fellowship and NCPDP. Can you tell us about your bonding with other fellows?
I would I want to give a shout out to Javed Bhai and Thaneshwar, both
Okay.
of them, because when we met in Goa, we used to always go out for a beer or uh, right or something much more harder. Every evening we sat down and had that. I think all 3 days we drank. So and there were a lot of moments to cheer about, and there's so much to learn from them because Thaneshwar, the kind of work that he's doing on Manrega, because when you talk about labor,
Yes.
your initial understanding is very ableistic in nature, right? Labor, someone who is physically fit and everything, but he's doing a work where he's talking about how disabled people who are doing work
Hmm.
in villages, right? And that's interesting, and he has done a lot of. And the region that he comes from, Chhattisgarh is such a you on a very social scale, it's a very turmoil driven. There's Naxalite movement there. That
That's true.
there's all kinds of stuff, and it's a very poor state in one sense in terms of, though it is rich in resources, but it's a very poor state in terms of the economics.
Yeah,
And there for someone to just go in village to village and do that stuff, and in fact for Javed Bhai also, for what he's being able to do in Jalon and the kind of work that he's been doing. I think I have learned one thing from them, that, and that's what I said, privilege. Because
yes,
in urban spaces, when we live, so many things are so readily available to you,
true.
and you don't care about things. But when you listen to them, when you sit with them and you talk to them, and they tell you that how people face challenges within villages, and specifically people with disabilities, and then again you further divide it into women with disabilities, then you get to know that it's not a very easy journey, and you are living in a bubble in one way.
That's true.
So yeah. Mm.
Exactly. Like we in an urbanized setting can never know what a person on ground is going through. That's true.
I think this realization of privilege,
Yes,
because within the disabled community we don't talk about it,
totally.
and I think this needs to percolate within the disabled community as well, because if you have gone to a good school, if you have gone to a good college, if you had a supporting parents, if you had a support system, things become easy for you.
That's true.
But just think about a person who has no support of their family, who has no support, who have not been able to go to good academic institute, who are not able to find the kind of support that they should have found. Just think about those people. And there have been instances when I have encountered people, and as I said, when I was speaking to Thaneshwar also, where he has done a lot of research and where he comes from, his own journey, that really transforms your understanding about this thing, and you start to acknowledge the fact that you're so privileged because you are able to speak good English, you are able to talk to people, you are able to communicate, because you need to understand the fact that when you come from a socioeconomic background which is not, what you say,
Unprivileged, from a privileged
yeah,
background.
I mean, you are not from a well off social economic background,
Yeah,
then things become much more difficult, you
that's
know.
true.
And I think in my journey, when I have gone on to talk to people, this is something that I've learned, that just be very, very aware of your privilege, and never try to um, downplay anyone's experience.
That's true.
Everyone has very different sort of experience, because living with a disability, people are living with different kinds of disability. They have different experience. People are living with different sexual orientation and gender identity. They have different experiences.
Yes,
So you need to respect that. You need to respect whatever they are saying. You need to be very, very considerate, and you need to understand that you need to be always respectful and be humble of whatever you have got, because many of them, they don't even have what you have.
that's true.
So
That's
yeah.
true. In fact, they are working much more and they are, encountering difficulties much more than what you are. At times, we live in a bubble. We actually got so many information from talking to you. I would love to thank you for, giving us time and joining us for this interview.
Yeah, thank you so much, and I hope you had great time.
Yes, of
Uh,
course.
Although the things that we were discussing were a little bit grim in nature, but that is the nature of life, and
Yeah.
that is the kind of work that we are doing. But thank you for doing this, and yeah,